Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. I don't want to start the day off with some negativity, but Neil Custis has been at it again. He's been at it again, and we're going to dive into that article. We also had an embarrassing situation with Gary Cotterill in Amorim's press conference, who's basically has done this before with Eric Ten Hag. Just very weird behaviour. Of course, around United, we've seen Luckhurst, the likes of Sky Cavey, David McDonald, Rob Dawson last year, all get banned from press conferences for apparently putting out stuff that was well sourced, which was absolute nonsense. And I just think the media surrounding Manchester United have a couple of bad apples, bad eggs, whatever you want to call them, ironically, because that's all they report about as well. And they need removing. But I just want to discuss first and foremost that this article that Neil Custis put out last night is an absolute shocker. We've also got some quotes from Bernado Silva on Ruben Amorim, and there's been an update of Vinicius Jr. being linked to Manchester United. Would you believe it? So we'll get into that more towards the end, but the main part of this story is going to be focused on the media around Manchester United and all the nonsense and dribble that's been coming out of their mouths for the past couple of weeks. Extend that to a year, extend it to months, whatever you want to, whatever you want to do. So basically, Neil Custis released an article last night about Joshua Zirkzee arriving at Manchester United a stone overweight, and apparently Eric Ten Hag didn't even want him, calling me £36.5 million flop. So he's only scored once this season, and he's only started 4 of United's 12 Premier League games. Now, the end part of that, I take no issue with whatsoever, because that's just stating facts. It's facts. Only started 4 of United's 12 Premier League games. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist. That's absolutely fine. However, what I will say is, though, for this man to call someone overweight is kind of like, I mean, do I need to say it? I don't think I need to say it, do I? The guy literally looks like a bacon butty. For him to call him overweight is just astonishing, innit, really? Very, very bizarre. I don't get how this kid's overweight. Even if he's put on a couple since then, he's still absolutely ripped, innit? I mean, this guy is calling him overweight. Him. He's calling Zirkzee overweight. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. For anyone who's seen Joshua Zirkzee before or, watched him at Bologna, he's always had that kind of lean, it's just a weird kind of thing. And I love Rasmus Højlund, but when Rasmus went 16 games without a goal drought, you didn't see a hit piece like this, did you? You didn't see anything like you've seen Luckhurst putting out weird reports about Højlund. We all remember that, of course, when he was talking about teammates don't like him, or they don't communicate with him, or they don't rate him in training. I think it was something along the lines of that. I don't really pay too much attention to Luckhurst and his articles, but this is the kind of dribble that they spout, and this is the kind of stuff we see as Manchester United fans on a weekly basis. The one thing I don't understand is, I don't understand how greasy journalists like Neil Custis and Samuel Luckhurst and these kind of guys get like a genuine looking into the club and get every single press conference and United privilege and all this kind of stuff, and channels like Stretford Paddock don't get a look in more often. You know what I mean? It's bizarre. Very, very bizarre. For anyone who doesn't know Neil Custis, there's been this long thing, especially with our channel at least, where there's just a lot of the stuff that he puts out is just utter crap. Absolute crap. I think we all remember the stuff around Qatar, where he was saying that it's a done deal and da-da-da and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of people bought it, and then literally a couple months after, got announced on Christmas Eve that Sir Jim Ratcliffe had won it. He gets weird scoops in controversial situations, and for anyone who doesn't know as well, obviously Neil Custis works for The Sun, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns a lot of other kind of media outlets like Fox News and Daily Telegraph and Times Sports and all these kind of things. And it's predominantly right-wing content, which is basically spewed out and pushed in your face. And the journos that The Sun usually hire or they usually have aren't the most moral humans, let's just say. I think that's a fair way to put it. I mean, this guy's been, pushing for managers to be sacked openly, insulting players like Maguire, Sancho, Pogba. Like I said before, putting out fake news, all that kind of shit with Qatar that was ongoing, and controversial scoops and the rest. So, Neil Custis, first and foremost, like I said, this guy has no right to call anyone overweight, period. Let's just end that conversation there. Now, we also had another situation with Gary Cotterill, which I'm sure most of you guys would have seen as well last night. Mithering Ruben Amorim, who, might I add, is a Portuguese manager, mithering him like a child to answer a question in English. And then when he says no, and kind of like, no, I'm here to speak to the Portuguese press, I'm here for sporting, etc., then continues to pester him like a kid. I was like, oh, you don't want to, you speak to them for 28 minutes, but you won't speak to the English. Have you got a problem with the English? And all these kind of things. You're just like, oh my God, man. This is the same guy who had, he did when Erik ten Hag arrived at Manchester United, he was hounding him in I was just going to call it the parking lot then. I'm not fucking American. In the parking lot, he was hounding him. Couldn't believe it. No, he was, what are they called? Car park. Jesus Christ. Yeah, hounding him in the car park, just chasing him. Eric, can we have a word? Eric, can we do this? And I've seen a couple of people calling it determined journalism and all. It's bollocks. He's just a mithering little whiny child. He's had several awkward and weird interactions with Ten Hag as well. That wasn't the only one. Proper weird situations that's happened with him. He really pushed the Ronaldo narrative when that was heated and wouldn't shut up about it and was just constantly mithering. It's like I feel like these guys get just given a clipboard with some mad stuff on it and just say, just go to this press conference or just put this article out, and we don't care if it's not well sourced. You can just put something like, I don't know, this has come from Sam, who lives near Old Trafford. Not Sam, on the channel, of course. He would never, ever speak to the Sun. But they just get some random source from wherever, basically the Worcestershire sauce in the fucking cupboard, and they'll go, right, these are the kind of headlines that something strong, like a word like overweight, or ugly, or just something like that, where it's personable rather than good critique. Something like that, big red bold writing, everyone will react to it. Any press is good press. That's their kind of motive, or at least I felt that's their motive for a good couple of years. There was also a situation with Gary Cotterill as well, and I'm sure some other clubs have faced it on with him being a Sky Sports reporter in 2022 during United's pre-season tour, where he's trying to get an exclusive interview with Ten Hag, and it's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. I mean, I'm sure the guy's got kids. I'm sure he's, what is he, like 50 odd, or at least he looks it. I remember the situation with the fans outside Old Trafford when he was protesting about the Glazers, and he was just asking weird questions. Like, the guy is just a helmet. And we can make a category. What we might actually do on this, because usually we do tier lists for players either that we should sell, that we should keep, or players that we should bring in, like a transfer tier list or what have you. I think we should do a tier list for journalists. Who are the worst journalists that are currently covering Manchester United, and who are the best ones? And I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Because I know 3 journalists instantly that would go straight into the red section of that category. And it would be Neil Custis, first and foremost, Samuel Luckhurst, and Gary Cotterill, if you want to throw him in there, but he's not necessarily a correspondent for Manchester United. I actually think other ones in there, and I'm not just saying it because we've had him on the show before, but Ian Irving asks the question every now and then. Always decent questions. Laurie Whitwell, Carl Anker will ask tactical questions, for example. I don't mind James Ducker a lot of the times. I think the questions he asks are decent. There are decent journalists in there, and it's just annoying from a fan's perspective, right? Because when we listen to these press conferences, we're sat there and we want to know, let's say when Ten Hag was going through the ringer last season, and he's got all these injuries and it's utter chaos. Ask the questions that fans want to know. What do you think you're training these guys too hard? Are the sessions too intense? And I know there's a couple of journalists that have asked that. Rather than going, what do you think about Greenwood to Marseille? Would you have kept him? Getting those, because they're trying to get a specific soundbite and a certain, phrase out of him. And like I referenced at the start of the show, he had some of these guys banned from the press conference for not coming to the club first and saying, is this true? And putting out, I really can't remember what the article was. Maybe it was Luckhurst. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Something to do with the manager, potentially. But they got banned, didn't they? I think we all remember that. And it's happened before. We all remember Fergie typically saying, your job is to tell the truth as a journalist, right? If it happens again, you're not coming in. And, 20 years on from then, or whenever that was, maybe even longer, we're still sat here dealing with the exact same issues. So, yeah, if there's any of you guys out there who respect these guys for whatever reason, I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. Yes, the journalist, and yes, they might put out some interesting pieces or what have you. But like I said, journalism is about telling the truth. It's about getting a really good story. It's about getting really good angles, like proper, legit journalism. A lot of the people from there, Andy Mitten is a prime example of a proper journalist who does the job, who does the due diligence, who will travel to different countries and really get well-sourced things. He is a proper tier 1 journalist. You compare Andy Mitten and Neil Custis, it's fucking apples and oranges, mate. They are so far apart in the journalism world, it's unbelievable. That's the standard that we should have, the standard of the journalist. And I think the world would be a better place, personally. But who am I to say? I'm not a journalist. I'm just a United fan, I suppose. So let me know your thoughts and feelings on that. On the whole kind of situation with Gary Cotterill and Neil Custis. Brian Casey saying, afternoon, Nick. Neil Custis is clearly still sore about Ten Hag calling him out a few weeks back after the Writers' Award. Hated, adored, never ignored. Exactly. It's a great point, that. Yeah, he called him out, didn't he? Say, Neil, do you want to manage? Do you want to do my job and see how easy it is? Embarrassed him slightly. Gary Cotterill's a weasel and is a disgrace to what was once a reputable organisation. Sky need to sack him. Honestly, he'll be on his own in God's tier. And Alex saying, what year is this? What do you mean? What year is this? What year is what? Be a bit more specific in your question, please. Right, in other news, because I don't want to, give a full 30 minutes to Neil Custis and Gary Cotterill and these kind of cretins. Bernado Silva's been speaking about Ruben Amorim, of course, Sporting CP play Manchester City tonight in the Champions League. Going to be a lot of eyeballs. Probably going to be Manchester City's biggest viewing rating into this season, because there'll be a load of United fans watching it, and just neutrals in general as well. I think there's a lot of people interested. I've seen quite a few popular pundits, online pundits from different clubs saying they're really looking forward to this game. Obviously, City lost the last game against Bournemouth. People saying they're in a bit of a rut now, which is just bizarre. I don't really understand. And Pep moaning about injuries as well, which I also don't get, because it's like, mate, did you see your squad on the weekend against Bournemouth? Like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. We've got to play a £50 million winger in Mateus Nunes. It's like, what are you fucking talking? You got Haaland in there. You've got Foden, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic. You know what I mean? Akanji. Shut up, innit? Shut up. Anyway, Bernardo Silva on Ruben Amorim saying, I don't wish him very well, as you can imagine, because he's going to be my rival, but he deserves to be one of the best clubs in the world because the work he's done in the last years has been unbelievable. Now, let me get a quick swig of a drink. Everything you're hearing right now about Ruben Amorim, whether it's from Portuguese players, whether it's from the press, whether it's from coaches, is super, super positive, and I like hearing this kind of stuff. I think what's interesting is when Erik ten Hag first came in, he spoke about eras can come to an end, right? And we all got a little bit excited about that and was jumping up, and then we finished third in the first season and we won a cup, and we was like, yes! He was right. It's starting to come to an end, and then ultimately the whole thing completely fucking collapsed in it. But I think the future is interesting because Pep Guardiola, I mean, what's he going to stay max one more year? I remember listening to Galen Balacu, is that how you pronounce it? The Spanish journalist who was speaking about it's not necessarily a switch clubs thing or a professional thing. It's more a personal thing and a family thing to do with his wife and kids. I think maybe that they want to move back to Spain or something along the lines of that. Don't quote me, I'm paraphrasing. So you'd expect Pep, if he does extend it, it'll only be by a year, and then he will be gone, which then makes the Premier League becomes then much more open, doesn't it? In terms of competition. Now, of course, you have rising teams like Aston Villa who've done really, really well under Unai Emery. I mean, there's a question on Chelsea, Enzo Maresca, how far will they go? There's question marks about Arsenal, Edu leaving there, which was the news that got reported last night. How much of an effect will that have on the team, on recruitment, on Arteta as well? Because obviously he had a very strong relationship. Like, there's some uncertainty around in the league. So one might argue that Amorim coming in, it could be a really, really good time. But obviously we said the same thing with Erik ten Hag. The big question is, how much time does he need to get us back near the top competing? How far is this squad off the top four, off, pushing in Europe? Because we're going to put the preview out later on. And I was doing a bit of digging into, us in Europe and how bad we've been. And I'm not going to mention the stat, but the last 10 times we've played in the Champions League, where we finished just is not good enough at all. So not only do we need to get us back competing near the top in the Premier League, in Europe as well, we've been horrific. It's been embarrassing for a club of United stature, to be honest with you. So a lot of work to be done. But like I said, timing is a massive thing in football. And if he can come in and do what we think he can, then yeah. But I think Ineos are going to push more of we really want an identity. We want a style that we can attach ourselves to. We want to be exciting. We want attacking football also as well. I think on Monday Night Football last night, Berbatov and Carragher made a really good point about this system coming in. He was like, look, when you play at Crystal Palace at Old Trafford, you know, having Garnacho as a wing back or whoever it is who's playing in that system and these kind of individuals will be fine. You'll probably dominate a game and you'll win. But when you're going to the Arsenal at the Emirates or Liverpool at Anfield and you're getting pushed back and then Garnacho's got a defender as a wing back and all these kind of systematic issues, I was like, that's interesting. It's very interesting. So I think, look, I know Ruben Amorim's focused on a sporting game tonight, or at least he'll say that. But he, looking at this opportunity at Manchester United, his head must be doing absolute whirlwinds. Because he's got so many things to deal with. I mean, every manager that's come to United has arguably looked 10 years older than what they did when they joined the club. Because it's just a whirlwind that a lot of people can't cope with. And that's why it's called a graveyard for players and managers alike. So I just hope that kind of curse, if you will, grabs Amorim, and then we're discussing this 2 years later and saying, oh, well, this is the new guy who's going to come in and his fresh ideas and da-da-da. I think United fans have been through enough, so this kind of, I'm almost sat there feeling like this has to, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, Prince BOT says, I can become your membership. Thank you very much. You have become a member. Appreciate that, brother. To be fair, we actually haven't put content out a members since the After Dark that we did. So I promise you this week we will get a members video done. Appreciate all you guys. Yeah, big up, Nick. Absolute legend. Thank you very much, Punch. Nice to see you in the chat, mate. UTFR, you just murdered that name, Nick. Which name? Which name? Love the haircut, homie. Clean fade. Cheers, everyone in the chat. Love this channel. Love this community. Thank you, Real Red Top, for all the work you guys put in. So lovely. Such a nice guy, Punch Paint. Yeah, to be honest, I was looking at my hair before it came live, and I was like, it's all over the gaff. I usually put wax in it or what have you, but the fade, I'll take it. Big up Fade Zone, if you know, you know. Got to say, I'm liking Amorim already. Handled Cotterill with class, saying Manchester United is my club, and joking that if he beats City tonight, he'll think the new Sir Alex is coming. City are about the largest viewing figures in their very short history. Oh yeah, the Spanish journalist. I don't know how to say his name. Is it? Let me try again. So the way I read it, let me Google it and get it up, and I'll give you a proper, at least with me, a 10 out of 10 pronunciation. I don't even know how to fucking spell his name. Jesus Christ. There we go. Galem Balagu. That's how I'd imagine he'd say it in Spanish. Galem Balagu. And I feel like there'd be a bit of a throat thing in the end there. Balagu. Is that right? Gilliam? No? Gualiam Balagu? I have no idea. It's a good job I'm not trying to learn Spanish, innit? Get me on Duolingo, Jesus Christ. Right, anyway, in other news, moving on as well. So results of Manchester United Stadium survey, which 50,000 fans took part in, and the figures are out. 52% would like a new stadium, 31% want Old Trafford redevelopment, and 17% unsure, support for a new build. Support for a new build from season ticket holders, more so older ones. Younger fans lean more towards a redevelopment. Manchester United's Director of Fan Engagement, Rick McGarr, we're probably mispronouncing that, we're delighted that this survey received the most responses in the club's history. It shows how important this work is, and to have this level of engagement at this stage is a really positive place to start. So what do you guys think about that? I know we've spoken about the stadium before in terms of what you guys want. Again, I don't know if you are match-going fans or not, but obviously everyone still has the right to say what they would prefer. I think everyone should be a part of this, and the more people that vote, the better, in my opinion. Obviously, you'll have the conversations. You have season ticket holders who are there week in, week out, and that's fine. You know, they have a strong opinion, of course. But I think it's just time to. I've said this before on this chat. I think it's just time for a new stadium. I look at Bernabeu with Real Madrid, and I'm like, I'm so in awe of it. And that is an unbelievable stadium. I mean, Tottenham, the only thing they can hold on to, because they haven't got any trophies, is having one of the best stadiums in the world. And that's Tottenham. Tottenham have one of the best stadiums in the world. You know, if Manchester United should have, or be up there, top 3 stadiums in the world. And the fan experience. 1,000,000%. For how global we are, for how big, you know, if something happens with Manchester United, you hear it in fucking Tanzania. You hear it, you know, in New Zealand, the other side of the world. We are absolutely mega, and we should have a mega stadium. I'm mega proud of it. I get the ties with Old Trafford. I get the history. I get it. I understand it. But I just think this new era under Ineos, I think a new stadium would be very fitting. And to be honest, if you've been to Old Trafford before, it's not the best experience in terms of like atmosphere and chanting and that kind of stuff and that kind of Old Trafford crisp air, if you know what I'm saying. That's great. But the rest of it isn't a great... I've been there. And the actual fan experience, the majority of the time, you want to get in and get out as soon as possible. You want to, like, fuck off. Whether that's traffic, you know, you get that rush, you get the food there, shit. You know, toilets are blocked sometimes. It's just not a nice experience. That's just my one person with his own individual experience and opinion. And the seats are very like you're very basically sat on someone's lap if they're a bigger bloke. I'm quite a big bloke as it is, but typically I get chucked together with someone who's a much bigger bloke. Someone who's a much bigger bloke and looks like this. Way, Custard, Neil Custard. That's his new name, by the way. Going forward, Neil Custard, not Custis. We're not having any of that nonsense. This man, again, calling this man fat is it's crazy. I digress. Joseph saying, isn't Custis overweight himself? Answered it there. Yeah. Can understand the arguments for both sides. The history within those walls is unparalleled, but the foundations are over 100 years old. And if we want to be the best in class, then it's a new stadium. It needs more than a lick of paint. Of course it does. And look, it's going to be 5-6 years before any before it's built. I think maybe even longer now, because I think they're thinking about postponing it for another year to really get more ideas and generate and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be a while before it's built and it's there anyway. I think the one positive thing about it is it's going to be in the area where we would typically go. So the match day kind of, routine, the match day routine will still be the same. For me personally, I'll still get a tram from Trafford Centre into Wharfside and then walk over to the stadium and it'll still be the same. And likewise on the journey back. So, yeah, that's a good positive thing. Like, it's not completely moving areas to somewhere else. And then there's going to be a load of work done around Salford Quays area and Wharfside, which is very interesting. So I'm a fan of it personally. But we'll see what happens with that. And, of course, any updates we'll have on our Instagram, which Sam runs and does a phenomenal job in terms of, you know, your regular news updates by the minute, pretty much. So, yeah, check us out on Instagram. All the socials are on the right-hand side of your screen on that little tablet there in the corner. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Isn't it mad how people still call it Twitter? I refuse to call it X. It just doesn't feel right at all. Anyway, let's get into the last bit of news, shall we? Now, in my younger days, when I first started doing this, I would probably get a bit excited seeing the name Vinicius Jr. being linked with Manchester United. However, I've been doing this for 3 years now, I want to say. And I don't know, whenever there's those kind of links, you just put it aside. It's just nonsense. Put it on the pile of nonsense stacked up with Luckhurst and Custis and these kind of guys. But Fabrizio Romano came out last night and was saying that clubs appreciate Vinicius Jr. You know, there's rumours that United and Chelsea and PSG are interested in the player, but they are absolutely not realistic, and Real Madrid consider him as untouchable. Now, the Ballon d'Or situation aside, because I thought that was embarrassing personally. I mean, just the whole team not going, plus the manager. When Rodri won it, I just thought it was classless. I thought it was tasteless, and I just didn't like it at all. That aside, as a player, anyone who knows me, especially the lads on the channel, with Vinicius, I've just been a massive fan of him for a long time. I think he's an unbelievable player. And actually, if I had a dream signing, I would bring him to Manchester United. You know, if you can just sign any check and say bring him, he would probably top 3 players that I would say. I think he's an amazing talent. I think surely it was a shout for him to win the Ballon d'Or. I get it, but also I work against Rodri winning it, even though he's a City player. Like, I think what he's done for Spain, what he's done for Man City, winning trebles, winning the Euros, you know, the record that he has in the game, the big goals that he scores in finals. I mean, it's like, how could you be so strongly disagree with it? It's not like the Nedved and Henry situation where he felt like he got robbed, or that I think a lot of people felt like Messi shouldn't have won it one year, and maybe Van Dijk or Lewandowski should have won it. That I get, but was it really that far apart in terms like people typically go for wingers. You look at the last, I don't know how long, the amount of attackers that have won it. I know Modric won it, but he is more of an attacking midfielder as well, especially in his prime. He would, you know, be that creative outlet. You've got Messi, Ronaldo, who've dominated for years. You've got Kaká, who won it. You've got Ronaldinho, who won it. I've just mentioned Nedved there. Like, usually it is attackers that win it. You had the odd one like Cannavaro and these kind of guys. But I don't know. I personally felt it was refreshing to see Rodri win it. Because, like we said, someone like Xavi and Iniesta never won a Ballon d'Or, which is fucking crazy. Because in their prime, we talk about one of the best teams ever, Barcelona. They were the engine room in that midfield. Same thing with Busquets. Unbelievable. But they always get looked over because the midfield technicians are not attacking, you know, flary wingers. Yeah, I don't get it. Fobo Stacko Man says Neil Custis, the Gannet. Yes, I like this Custis thing. It's trending. It's a mess. Toilets are disgusting. Seats too small and close. Food's poo. Even the executive experience is crap. I voted for a new stadium. I think, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. There's only one winger that should be going for, and that's Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, look, we spoke about Kvaratskhelia yesterday. There was a report coming in. I think Joshua Owen put it in the chat about him, £90 million. I don't think they're going to spend that amount of money on him. But one thing I will say is I can see Kvaratskhelia working in Amorim's system as well, in that inside area operating. I think he'd be really good in there. Because you look at his dribbling, ball-footedness, football intelligence is decent. So Kvaratskhelia, and Shreyas is a massive fan of... he's a massive fan of Kvaratskhelia, so that is something we look at. But look, we've got a long time to wait until the summer. I mean, a million things could change. We don't know where we're going to finish. We don't know if we're going to be in the top four, if we're going to even have European football at this point. What, we're 13th in the league. So it all depends on that in terms of budget and how far we can expand and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens on that. But look, just a reminder for you guys, for anyone who's just joining, what we've been through and what we've spoken about. We've spoken about Neil Custis and the article he put out about Joshua Zirkzee calling him overweight. We spoke about Gary Cotterill's embarrassing situation in the press conference with Ruben Amorim. We spoke about Sky Cave, Luckhurst, David McDonald, Rob Dawson all being cut. The media in general surrounding Manchester United. And we had quotes coming in from Bernado Silva. We've spoken about the stadium. And we've spoken about Vinicius Jr. All the links being put to bed there. Shocking news. Vinicius Jr. is not going to United. Yeah, we know. We know. Anyhow. If you can, and if you're feeling generous today on a Tuesday, please do leave a like on the video for us and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the content. We're going to drop the preview for you guys for POAK or PAOK or whatever you guys want to call him on Thursday night, the Greek team that we play in the Europa League. The preview will drop for that later on, so keep an eye out for that and let us know your thoughts, get your score predictions and team lineup. Apart from that, if you have spare time and you want some content to watch, we had Sam Francesco, who's a Sporting Lisbon fan, on yesterday on the channel at 12 o'clock discussing Ruben Amorim, discussing his time at the club and what impact he had, and I think it's a really insightful interview, so check that out if you can, if you do have the time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.